Hold still. I want to see how pathetic a single father looks when he's finally put in his place. Victoria Chen's arm swung forward. $500 of vintage champagne exploded across Marcus Williams's face, soaking the only suit he owned, the same one he'd worn to bury his wife 3 years ago. The ballroom erupted in gasps. Then laughter. Victoria's teenage son Bradley was already filming his phone steady, his grin wide. But Marcus didn't flinch, didn't wipe his face, didn't leave. He smiled. Because Victoria Chen had just humiliated the man who in exactly 47 minutes would reveal he owned 51% of everything she had. Before we continue, drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The champagne was still dripping down Marcus Williams's neck when Victoria Chen leaned in close enough for him to smell her perfume. It was expensive. Everything about her was expensive. "You know what I love about charity cases like you?" she whispered loud enough for the nearby guests to hear. "You actually believe you belong here. It's adorable." Marcus kept his eyes forward, his jaw tight, his hands loose at his sides. 42 years old, widower, father of an 8-year-old girl named Lily, who was probably asleep right now in their small apartment across town, dreaming about the stars her mother used to point out through their window. He thought about Lily now, about what Elena would say if she could see him standing here, champagne running down his rented tuxedo, surrounded by people who wouldn't spit on him if he was on fire. Elena would say, "Don't react. Make them think they've won, then take everything." So Marcus smiled. "Thank you for the drink, Ms. Chen," he said, his voice calm. "I was getting thirsty." Victoria's left eye twitched. That wasn't the reaction she wanted. Behind her, Bradley Chen, 16 years old, 6 feet tall, wearing a watch that cost more than most people's cars, kept his phone raised. "Mom, this is gold. The comments are going to be insane." "Good boy," Victoria said without looking at him. "Make sure you get his face. I want everyone to see what happens when nobody's tried to swim with sharks." The ballroom had gone quiet. 300 guests in designer gowns and tailored suits stood frozen champagne flutes halfway to their lips, watching the spectacle unfold. This was the Titan Industries annual gala, the most exclusive business event on the East Coast. Invitations were harder to get than box seats at the Super Bowl. Marcus Williams had received his invitation 6 weeks ago, a thick cream envelope with gold embossing. Inside, a handwritten note from Victoria Chen herself. "Mr. Williams, your innovative work in clean energy has caught our attention. Please join us as our honored community partner. We believe great things are possible when visionaries come together." He'd known it was a trap. Victoria Chen didn't invite community partners to her galas. She invited prey. But Marcus had come anyway. Because sometimes to catch a predator, you have to let them think they're hunting you. Now here he stood, dripping wet, surrounded by silent witnesses, and Victoria was circling him like a shark who'd finally cornered a wounded seal. "You know what kills me?" Victoria continued, her voice rising for the audience. "The audacity. The absolute audacity of people like you. A man who runs a little startup out of his garage thinks he can negotiate with Titan Industries." She turned to address the crowd, arms spread wide. "6 months ago, Mr. Williams here came to us with a proposal. He wanted $450 million for his little clean energy patents. $450 million for technology that our R&D department could replicate in 6 months. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Nervous, uncomfortable, but laughter nonetheless. Marcus remained still, watching, waiting. "We were going to be kind," Victoria said, feigning sadness. "We were going to give him $20 million. Let him walk away with something. But then he had the nerve, the absolute nerve, to demand equity. He wanted a seat at our table." She spun back to face Marcus, her heels clicking against the marble floor. "Look at him. Look at this man. Single father, dead wife, running his little company out of a rented office space. And he thinks he deserves to sit at the same table as us. Marcus felt something shift in his chest. It wasn't anger. He'd burned through his anger years ago in hospital rooms and courtrooms and funeral homes. This was something colder, sharper. "My wife," he said quietly, "has a name." Victoria tilted her head. "Excuse me. You said dead wife." Her name was Elena Williams. She was a brilliant engineer. She graduated top of her class at MIT. She held 14 patents before she was 30. His voice carried across the silent ballroom. "And she's the reason I'm here tonight." Something flickered across Victoria's face. Recognition fear. It was gone before Marcus could identify it. "How touching," she said, recovering quickly. "A grieving widower with a hero complex. Bradley, make sure you're getting this. The comments section is going to love it." Bradley shifted closer, phone thrust forward. "Say something for the camera charity case. Tell everyone how sad your life is." Marcus looked directly into the lens, into those thousands of future viewers, into history. "My name is Marcus Williams," he said clearly. 3 years ago, my wife Elena died of cancer. She was 40 years old. She left behind a daughter who still asks for her every night and a husband who swore on her grave that he would finish what she started. He paused. Let the words hang in the air. Elena spent 15 years developing revolutionary clean energy technology, solar conversion systems that could power entire cities for a fraction of the current cost, wind capture mechanisms that could work in any weather condition, battery storage solutions that would make fossil fuels obsolete. Victoria's smile was beginning to crack. This is getting boring. Security. 18 months ago. Marcus continued, raising his voice. Elena's patents were stolen, all 14 of them, copied, altered, filed under different names by a company called Titan Industries. The gasps were louder now, genuine shock. "That's absurd," Victoria snapped. "That's slander. You'll be hearing from my lawyers." "Your lawyers," Marcus said softly, "are going to be very busy soon." He reached into his jacket pocket, the same jacket now stained with champagne, and pulled out his phone. Elena spent her final months documenting everything, every meeting, every conversation, every email. She knew what was coming. She knew she was dying, and she knew your company was circling like vultures. So she prepared. Marcus tapped his screen. She prepared for tonight. Victoria's face had gone pale. "What are you doing?" "Something I should have done 18 months ago. But I needed time. Time to verify. Time to position. Time to make sure that when I moved, there would be no escape." His phone buzzed. Then buzzed again. Then exploded in a continuous stream of notifications. Across the ballroom, other phones started buzzing. Then ringing. Then screaming with alerts. Victoria grabbed the arm of a man in a gray suit, her chief financial officer. "Thomas, what's happening?" Thomas was staring at his phone, his face the color of ash. "Victoria, the stock." "What about the stock?" It's crashing. 17% in the last 3 minutes. Someone's dumping shares. Massive volume. Institutional level." Victoria's head snapped toward Marcus. "What did you do?" Marcus smiled. The same calm smile he'd worn when the champagne hit his face. "I bought your company." The words fell like bombs. "That's impossible," Victoria breathed. "That's absolutely impossible. I own 34% of Titan Industries. My family trust owns another 12. No one could acquire a controlling stake without anyone noticing," Marcus finished. "You're right. Unless they did it very, very carefully. Through shell companies. Through offshore trusts. Through patient, methodical acquisition spread across 18 months and disguised as normal market activity." He pulled out a folded document from his inside pocket. The paper was slightly damp from champagne, but the words were still clear. "As of 6:47 p.m. tonight, approximately 12 minutes before you poured that drink on my head, I completed the acquisition of 51% of Titan Industries' outstanding shares." Thomas grabbed the document, scanning it frantically. His hands were shaking. "Victoria," he said, his voice cracking. "This is legitimate. This is... My God, this is real." Victoria snatched the paper. Her eyes darted across the legal text, the signatures, the notarizations. Color drained from her face with every line. "This can't be happening," she whispered. "This cannot be happening." "Mom?" Bradley's voice was uncertain now. The phone in his hand had stopped recording. "Mom, what's going on?" Victoria didn't answer. She was still staring at the document, her lips moving silently as she read and reread the words that spelled her doom. Marcus took a step toward her. Just one step. But it was enough to make her flinch. "Here's what's going to happen next," he said, his voice carrying across the frozen ballroom. "Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., I'm calling an emergency board meeting. At that meeting, I will present evidence of systematic patent theft, securities, fraud, tax evasion, and criminal conspiracy to defraud minority contractors." He was close enough now to see her pupils dilating with fear. "Your father built Titan Industries over 40 years. You inherited it 15 years ago. And in that time, you've turned it into a criminal enterprise that has destroyed hundreds of small businesses, stolen billions in intellectual property, and ruined countless lives." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Including mine." Victoria's mask finally cracked. Real fear flooded her features. "You can't prove any of that," she hissed. "You have nothing. You're bluffing." "Am I?" Marcus turned to address the crowd one final time. "Many of you know Dorothy Price. She worked as Ms. Chen's executive assistant for 25 years before being terminated last year. What you don't know is that Dorothy spent those 25 years documenting every crime, every cover-up, every act of discrimination and fraud that occurred within Titan Industries." He paused. "She contacted me 6 months ago. She's been working with federal investigators ever since. And tonight, while you were all drinking champagne and laughing at the single father who dared to show up at your party, the FBI obtained warrants to search Titan Industries headquarters, the Chen family residence, and 17 offshore banking facilities." As if on cue, the distant wail of sirens began to filter through the ballroom's massive windows. Victoria's hand shot out, grabbing Marcus's arm with desperate strength. "We can make a deal," she said rapidly, all pretense of superiority gone. "Whatever you want. Money, the patents back, a public apology. Name your price." Marcus looked down at her hand on his arm, at her perfectly manicured nails digging into his champagne-soaked sleeve. "My wife died in a hospital bed fighting for every breath while your lawyers buried her in lawsuits. She couldn't afford experimental treatment because every penny we had went to fighting your legal attacks. She died believing she had failed, that all her work, all her brilliance would be stolen and corrupted by people like you." He removed her hand gently, almost tenderly. "There is no price for that, Ms. Chen. There is no deal that brings her back. There is no amount of money that lets my daughter grow up with her mother." He stepped back. "But there is justice, and tonight justice begins." The sirens were louder now. Much louder. Red and blue lights began to flash through the ballroom's windows, painting the horrified faces of guests in alternating colors. Bradley was crying. Actual tears streaming down his teenage face. "Mom, I'm scared. What's happening? What did you do?" For the first time all night. Victoria Chen had no answer. Marcus walked toward the ballroom's exit. The crowd parted before him like the Red Sea guests stumbling over themselves to get out of his path. He paused at the door and turned one last time. Victoria stood where he'd left her, the crumpled legal document clutched in her hand. Mascara beginning to run, as tears of rage and fear carved tracks through her perfect makeup. "You should have just let me buy my patents back," Marcus said quietly. 18 months ago, I came to you with a simple offer. $20 million for the technology your company stole from my dying wife. You laughed in my face. You called me a nobody. You told me that people like me don't get to negotiate with people like you. He smiled one final time. You were right about one thing, Ms. Chen. This isn't a negotiation. This is a reckoning. The ballroom doors opened. FBI agents streamed in like a dark tide, badges raised, voices sharp with authority. Marcus Williams walked out into the night, champagne still drying on his collar. His dead wife's justice finally set in motion. Behind him, Victoria Chen's screams echoed off the crystal chandeliers as agents surrounded her. But Marcus didn't look back. He had a phone call to make. In 12 hours, the whole world would know the truth about Titan Industries. In 24 hours, Victoria Chen would be in federal custody. In 48 hours, every major news network would be running the story of the single father who brought down a corporate empire. But first, Marcus needed to call Dorothy Price, the woman who had kept records for 25 years, the woman who had waited silently, patiently for someone brave enough to use her evidence, the woman who had lost everything but refused to lose hope. Marcus climbed into his car, a 12-year-old Honda Civic with 180,000 miles on the odometer, and pulled out his phone. The screen lit up with dozens of notifications, stock alerts, news alerts, message after message from numbers he didn't recognize. He ignored them all and dialed Dorothy's number. She answered on the first ring. "It's done," Marcus said. "She took the bait. The FBI is there now." Dorothy's voice was thick with emotion. Did she really pour champagne on you? I saw it on Bradley's live stream before they cut the feed." "She did." A long pause. "How did that feel?" Marcus thought about it. About the cold liquid running down his neck. About the laughter. About Victoria's smug certainty that she was untouchable. "It felt," he said slowly, "like the beginning of the end." Dorothy let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. 25 years, Marcus. 25 years I watched her destroy people. Good people. Hard-working people. I wrote everything down because I didn't know what else to do. I kept telling myself that someday someone would come along who was strong enough to fight back. Her voice broke. "I just didn't think it would take this long." Marcus closed his eyes. He could picture Dorothy now, 72 years old, silver hair, ramrod straight spine, despite decades of being forced to bow to the Chen family's cruelty. "Elena knew," he said quietly. "Before she died, she told me about you. She said there was a woman inside Titan who was keeping records. She said that if I could find you, I could find justice. Your wife," Dorothy said, "was the bravest woman I ever met. When Victoria's lawyers started coming after her, Elena didn't back down. She fought back with everything she had. And when it was clear she wasn't going to win in court, she did something even braver. She prepared for someone else to fight." Marcus finished. "Yes?" They sat in silence for a moment. Two people connected by a dead woman's courage. "What happens now?" Dorothy asked finally. "Now we wait. The feds have the warrants. They have your evidence. They have 18 months of documentation proving exactly how Victoria Chen built her empire on stolen technology and broken lives." Marcus started his car. "And tomorrow we go on offense." His phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. He glanced at it. "Mr. Williams. This is Special Agent Rebecca Torres, FBI Financial Crimes Division. We need to speak with you urgently. Victoria Chen is claiming you orchestrated an illegal takeover of her company. She's demanding your immediate arrest. Please call me at this number within the hour." Marcus stared at the message. He had expected retaliation. Victoria Chen didn't become one of the most powerful CEOs in America by surrendering quietly. But he hadn't expected her to move this fast. His phone buzzed again. Another text from Agent Torres. "Mrs. Chen has provided documentation suggesting you engaged in securities fraud, market manipulation, and corporate espionage. Her legal team is already petitioning a judge for emergency injunctive relief. If granted, your shares in Titan Industries could be frozen within hours." Marcus felt the first cold fingers of doubt creep into his chest. He had planned for many scenarios. He had spent 18 months preparing for this moment. But Victoria Chen had spent her entire life learning how to destroy people who challenged her. This wasn't over. This was just beginning. Marcus pulled out of the parking lot and headed toward Dorothy's apartment. They had a long night ahead of them. And somewhere across the city, in a ballroom now swarming with federal agents, Victoria Chen was already planning her counterattack. Marcus arrived at Dorothy's apartment building at 11:47 p.m. The neighborhood was quiet, a working-class area of the city, where people went to bed early because they had jobs that started at dawn. Dorothy was waiting in the lobby, a worn leather satchel clutched against her chest. The same satchel Marcus had seen in photographs. The one that contained 25 years of documentation. "You look tired," she said, as he held the door open. "I just had champagne poured on my head and accused the most powerful woman in the city of criminal conspiracy. I'm allowed to look tired." Dorothy almost smiled. "Fair point. Come upstairs. We need to talk before the FBI calls you back." Her apartment was small, but immaculate. Every surface gleamed. Every book stood perfectly aligned on its shelf. This was a woman who had spent her life imposing order on chaos. "Coffee," she asked. "Please, strong." While Dorothy prepared the coffee, Marcus examined the evidence boards she had arranged around her living room. Photographs connected by red string, timelines mapped on corkboards, file folders labeled by year, by crime category, by victim name. "You've been busy," he said. 25 years of busy." Dorothy handed him a cup. "When you spend that long watching monsters operate, you either go crazy or you get organized. I chose organized." Marcus sipped the coffee. It was strong enough to strip paint. "Tell me about Victoria's countermove," he said. "What can she actually do in the next 12 hours? Dorothy sat down heavily in an armchair. Despite her straight spine, he could see the exhaustion in her eyes. She had been carrying this weight for a quarter century. "Victoria Chen is many things," Dorothy said carefully. "Cruel, arrogant, vindictive. But she's not stupid. She's been preparing for a moment like this her whole life. Preparing how in insurance policies, blackmail material, favors owed by judges, politicians, law enforcement. She once told me that the only difference between a prisoner and a free woman is the number of people willing to lie for you." Dorothy pulled a folder from her satchel. "This is everything I have on her countermeasures. The judges she's paid off, the politicians in her pocket, the FBI agents who've looked the other way on previous investigations." Marcus took the folder. Inside were names, dates, transaction records, photographs of meetings that should never have happened. "Agent Torres," he said, finding a familiar name. "The FBI agent who texted me tonight. She's on this list." Dorothy nodded grimly. Victoria paid for her daughter's medical school. $140,000 routed through a scholarship fund that doesn't actually exist. Marcus felt his stomach drop. So the FBI agent investigating Victoria is actually working for her. Not necessarily working for her, but compromised enough that Victoria can apply pressure at a critical moment. Like tonight. The weight of the situation crashed over Marcus like a wave. He had thought he was the hunter. He had spent 18 months carefully, patiently, methodically acquiring control of Titan Industries. He had built relationships with whistleblowers. He had accumulated evidence. He had planned for every contingency. But Victoria Chen had been playing this game for 40 years. She had started when she was 25, learning at her father's knee how to crush opposition and bury evidence. She had refined her techniques through decades of corporate warfare. And now, Marcus, a widower from a working-class neighborhood, a man who had learned about corporate maneuvering from library books and late-night internet research, was going up against the most ruthless player in the game. "You're having doubts," Dorothy said. It wasn't a question. "I'm having reality checks," Marcus replied. "There's a difference." "No, there isn't." Dorothy leaned forward. "Listen to me carefully, Marcus Williams. I've watched dozens of people try to take down Victoria Chen. Lawyers, journalists, competitors, regulators. Every single one of them got to this moment, the moment when they realized how deep her corruption runs, and they all had the same look you have right now. What happened to them? They gave up. They took settlements. They moved to different cities and tried to forget. They convinced themselves that some battles can't be won. Dorothy's eyes were fierce now, burning with a fire that 25 years of servitude hadn't extinguished. But you're different, Marcus. You know why. He shook his head. Because you don't have anything left to lose. Victoria already took everything from you. Your wife's work, your wife's health, your wife's life. She burned your world to the ground and laughed while it fell. Dorothy grabbed his hand. A man with nothing left to lose is the most dangerous thing in the world. Because he can't be bought. He can't be threatened. He can't be scared away. He can only be stopped, and stopping a man like you requires making mistakes. Mistakes like publicly humiliating me in front of 300 witnesses. Dorothy smiled. It transformed her entire face. Exactly like that. Victoria Chen made a mistake tonight. She couldn't resist the performance, couldn't resist proving her dominance. She filmed herself committing assault while surrounded by the most connected people in the city. She pulled out her phone showing Marcus the video that was already spreading across social media. Bradley's live stream captured by hundreds of viewers before it was deleted. This video has been viewed 4 million times in the last 2 hours. By morning, it'll be 50 million. Victoria thought she was humiliating you. Instead, she created a moment that the entire internet is going to remember. Marcus watched himself on the small screen. Watched the champagne explode across his face. Watched Victoria's cruel laughter. And then, he saw something he hadn't noticed in the moment. His own expression. Calm. Patient. Almost peaceful. The face of a man who knew exactly what was about to happen. "She's going to fight back hard," Marcus said slowly. "She's going to throw everything she has at me. Lawyers, investigators, media attacks. She's probably already spinning a narrative that I'm a dangerous stalker who orchestrated an illegal takeover. Yes, Agent Torres is compromised, which means the FBI investigation might get buried or redirected. Possibly. And Victoria has 30 years of experience destroying people who challenge her, while I have 18 months of preparation and a dead wife's documents." Dorothy nodded. Marcus stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, his daughter Lily was sleeping, probably having dreams about her mother, about the woman who used to sing to her and read her stories and promise her that everything would be okay. Elena had made Marcus promise in her final days that he would take care of Lily, that he would make sure their daughter knew she was loved, that he would never let the bitterness of loss poison their lives. But Elena had made him promise something else too, something she had whispered with her last breath, her hand cold and thin in his. "Don't let them win, Marcus. Promise me, don't let them win." He turned back to Dorothy. "What do we do now?" Dorothy's smile widened. "Now," she said, reaching for another folder. "We show you the evidence that Victoria doesn't know exists. The evidence even I haven't told the FBI about yet." She spread documents across the coffee table. Photographs, audio transcripts, financial records. 25 years of watching monsters, Dorothy said softly. 25 years of waiting. And now finally, the monster has made a mistake that she can't bury. She looked up at Marcus. By morning, Victoria Chen won't just be fighting for her company. She'll be fighting for her freedom. Marcus picked up the first document, and as he began to read, he felt something he hadn't felt since Elena's funeral. Hope. The documents Dorothy spread across her coffee table told a story far darker than Marcus had imagined. "This is from 2019, Dorothy said, tapping a photograph. "Victoria meeting with Senator Howard Mills. See the envelope she's handing him?" Marcus leaned closer. The image was grainy but clear enough. Victoria Chen, passing a thick manila envelope across a restaurant table to a man Marcus recognized from television. $40,000 in cash, Dorothy continued. I was in the car waiting. She told me to keep the engine running because she'd only be 5 minutes. When she came out, she was laughing. She said, "Dorothy, that man just sold his vote for the price of a used Honda." Senator Mills chairs the oversight committee that regulates clean energy companies. Exactly. 3 weeks after this meeting, Mills killed a bill that would have required stricter auditing of energy patents. That bill would have exposed how Victoria was stealing technology from small innovators. Marcus flipped to the next document. Bank records showing wire transfers between offshore accounts. Shell company registrations in the Cayman Islands. A web of financial deception so complex it made his head spin. "How did you get all this?" Dorothy's expression hardened. "Victoria trusted me with everything. She saw me as furniture. Something useful that didn't have feelings or thoughts or memory. Every time she needed a document shredded, she handed it to me first. Every time she needed a meeting scheduled off the books, I was the one who made the arrangements." She pulled out a small digital recorder, and every time she bragged about her crimes to her friends over dinner, I was the one serving the wine. Marcus stared at the recorder. "You recorded her conversations?" "For the last 10 years. Over 300 hours of Victoria Chen admitting to fraud, bribery, theft, and worse." Dorothy pressed play. Victoria's voice filled the small apartment, crystal clear and dripping with arrogance. "The Williams patent, please. That woman was dying anyway. We just accelerated the process. By the time she realized what was happening, she couldn't afford a lawyer who could tie his own shoes. We buried her in paperwork and let the cancer do the rest." Marcus felt his hands start to shake. Elena. They were talking about Elena. "Turn it off," he whispered. Dorothy pressed stop. "I'm sorry. I should have warned you." "No." Marcus forced himself to breathe. "Play the rest. I need to hear everything." For the next 3 hours, they sat together in Dorothy's small living room, listening to Victoria Chen convict herself in her own words. She bragged about destroying competitors. She laughed about manipulating stock prices. She joked about the little people who thought they could challenge her empire. And again she mentioned Elena Williams. "That engineer with the solar patents is becoming a problem," Victoria said in one recording dated 18 months before Elena's death. "She's smart, too smart. If she gets her technology to market before we can replicate it, we're screwed." A male voice responded, "What do you want to do?" "What I always do. Make her life impossible. Bury her in legal fees. Challenge every patent. Make sure no bank will touch her. No investor will return her calls. No partner will risk associating with her." "And if that doesn't work," Victoria laughed, "it always works. People like Elena Williams don't have the resources to fight us. They run out of money. They run out of energy. They run out of hope. And then they disappear." Marcus's jaw was clenched so tight he could feel his teeth grinding. Elena hadn't just died of cancer. She had been murdered. Slowly, deliberately, systematically murdered by a woman who saw her as nothing more than an obstacle to be removed. "There's more," Dorothy said quietly. "About your wife specifically." "Show me." Dorothy handed him a folder marked Williams E. Inside were internal Titan Industries memos, strategy documents, email chains between Victoria and her legal team. The first memo was dated 2 years before Elena's diagnosis. R.E. Williams Patent Portfolio. Threat Assessment. Elena Williams has filed 14 patents related to solar conversion and energy storage. Our analysis indicates her technology is 3 to 5 years ahead of our current R&D. If she successfully commercializes these innovations, Titan Industries will lose significant market share. Recommendation: implement Protocol 7. Marcus looked up. "What's Protocol 7? Dorothy's face was grim. "Victoria's playbook for destroying competitors. Step 1, file baseless patent challenges to tie them up in court. Step 2, use shell companies to poach their key employees. Step 3, spread rumors in the industry to destroy their reputation. Step 4, Pressure banks and investors to cut off their funding. And step 5. Wait. When they're broken and desperate, offer to buy their company for pennies on the dollar. If they refuse, file more lawsuits until they have no choice. Marcus read through the rest of the folder. Every step of Victoria's playbook had been executed against Elena with surgical precision. The patent challenges, the employee poaching, the whisper campaign that painted Elena as difficult and unstable, the investors who suddenly stopped returning calls, and then the final document, an internal email from Victoria to her chief legal counsel, dated 3 months before Elena's diagnosis. Robert, Williams is proving more resilient than expected. She's liquidated personal assets to continue funding her legal defense. This is taking too long. We need to accelerate the timeline. I don't care what it takes. I want her finished before the end of the fiscal year. Marcus closed the folder. His hands were trembling. She killed my wife. It wasn't a question. The stress of what Victoria did to her contributed to Elena's illness, Dorothy said carefully. The doctors said the cancer might have been survivable with early intervention. But Elena was so consumed with fighting Titan's legal attacks that she ignored the warning signs for months. By the time she finally saw a doctor, it was too late. Dorothy nodded. Marcus stood up abruptly, nearly knocking over his coffee cup. He walked to the window and pressed his forehead against the cool glass. Elena. His brilliant, beautiful Elena. The woman who used to dance in the kitchen while cooking breakfast. The woman who could explain quantum physics to an 8-year-old. The woman who had promised him forever and been stolen away before they'd even had 20 years. She had died believing she was a failure. Believing that all her work, all her genius would be stolen by thieves in expensive suits. Her last months had been consumed by fear and frustration and the crushing weight of fighting an enemy she couldn't beat. And Victoria Chen had laughed about it. Marcus. Dorothy's voice was gentle. I know what you're feeling. I felt it too for years. The rage, the helplessness, the desperate need to make them pay. He didn't turn around. But we're past that now, Dorothy continued. Tonight you took the first step. You exposed her in front of everyone who matters. You took control of her company. And you set in motion a chain of events that she cannot stop. She's going to fight back. Of course she is. Victoria Chen has been fighting her whole life. But she's never fought someone like you. Marcus finally turned. What makes me different? Dorothy smiled sadly. You're already dead inside. The worst thing that could happen to you already happened. You lost the love of your life and watched her die in agony. Victoria can't threaten you with anything worse than what you've already survived. She walked to him and placed her weathered hand on his arm. That terrifies her. I saw it in her eyes tonight just for a moment, when you didn't react to the champagne. She expected you to crumble, to rage, to give her ammunition to paint you as the villain. Instead, you stood there like a stone while the ocean crashed around you. What happens next? Dorothy checked her watch. It's almost 4 a.m. In about 5 hours, every major news network in the country will be running the story of what happened at that gala. Victoria's PR team is already spinning, but the video is everywhere. They can't bury it. She handed him another folder. This is our counteroffensive. I've been preparing it for years, updating it every time I gathered new evidence. It's a complete media strategy for exposing Victoria Chen. Timeline. Talking points. Contact information for journalists who've been wanting to investigate Titan Industries for years. Marcus opened the folder. It was organized with military precision. Day-by-day action items. Key messages for different audiences. Potential obstacles and solutions. You've thought of everything. I've had 25 years to think. The only thing I was missing was someone brave enough to pull the trigger. Dorothy's eyes glistened. Your wife found that someone before she died. She trusted you to finish what she started. Marcus's phone buzzed. Then again. Then erupted in a continuous stream of notifications. He checked the screen. Dozens of messages from unknown numbers. Media requests. Interview invitations. some supportive, some hostile. The world was waking up to what had happened at the Titan Industries Gala. One message stood out, from his daughter's school. "Mr. Williams, please call Principal Henderson at your earliest convenience regarding Lily. There has been an incident." Marcus's blood went cold. "Dorothy, I have to go. Something happened at Lily's school." Dorothy frowned. "At 4 in the morning." "I don't know. The message just says there was an incident." Marcus was already moving toward the door. "We'll continue this later. Keep the evidence secure." "Marcus, wait." Dorothy grabbed his arm. "If Victoria knows about your daughter—" "I know." His voice was tight. "That's why I have to go now." He was out the door before Dorothy could respond. The drive to Lily's school took 15 minutes. Marcus broke every speed limit, his mind racing with terrifying possibilities. The principal's message hadn't specified what kind of incident. It could be anything. A medical emergency, a behavioral issue, or something far worse. Principal Henderson was waiting in the school parking lot when Marcus arrived. The man's face was pale, his tie loosened, his usually immaculate hair disheveled. "Mr. Williams, thank you for coming so quickly. Where's my daughter?" "She's safe. She's in my office with the school counselor." Henderson hesitated. "There's something you need to see first." He led Marcus around the side of the building to the elementary school wing. Even in the pre-dawn darkness, Marcus could see it. Spray paint. Massive red letters across the brick wall. "Your daddy is a thief. Go back where you came from." Marcus felt his chest constrict. "We discovered it about 2 hours ago," Henderson said quietly. "The night security guard was doing his rounds. We immediately contacted police, and then we called you." "Did anyone see who did this?" "The security cameras were disabled. Someone knew exactly where they were and how to avoid them." Henderson's voice dropped. "Mr. Williams, this was professional. Whoever did this wanted to send a message." Marcus stared at the hateful words. The implications crashed over him like waves. Victoria knew about Lily. Victoria knew where she went to school. And Victoria was willing to target an 8-year-old girl to hurt him. "Where is my daughter?" Marcus's voice was barely controlled. "This way." Lily was curled up on a couch in the principal's office, wrapped in a blanket, her face tear-stained. When she saw Marcus, she launched herself at him. "Daddy!" Marcus caught her, holding her tight against his chest. He could feel her heart racing, her small body trembling with fear. "I'm here, baby. Daddy's here." "The police lady woke me up," Lily sobbed. "She said there was bad stuff on my school and I had to come with her. I was so scared, Daddy. I didn't know where you were." Marcus stroked her hair, making soothing sounds even as rage built inside him like a furnace. "Everything's okay now. Daddy's got you." He looked up at Henderson over Lily's head. "Who was the officer who brought her here?" "Officer Martinez. She's still here taking statements." Marcus nodded. "I want to talk to her, and I want a full report of your security footage from tonight, disabled cameras included." Henderson nodded and slipped out. Marcus held his daughter for a long moment, letting her tears soak into his shirt. The same shirt that had been drenched in champagne just hours ago. He hadn't even changed. "Daddy," Lily's voice was small. "Why do people want to hurt us?" Marcus closed his eyes. What could he tell her? That he had declared war on a billionaire who had no limits. That her father had put a target on both their backs. That the woman who had stolen her mother's work was now coming after her. "Sometimes," he said carefully, "people who have a lot of money think they can do whatever they want. They think they can hurt anyone who stands up to them. But they're wrong, baby. They're wrong because good people don't give up. Good people fight back." Lily pulled away enough to look at his face. Her eyes, so much like Elena's, searched his. "Is this about Mommy?" The question hit Marcus like a physical blow. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "Before Mommy went to heaven, she told me that bad people took something important from her. She said you would get it back someday. She said you were the bravest person she knew." Marcus felt tears building behind his eyes. Elena had known. Even in her final days, delirious with pain and medication, she had known that Marcus would keep fighting. "That's right, baby. Some bad people hurt Mommy, and Daddy is making sure they can never hurt anyone else." "Is the lady from the video the bad person, the one who poured the drink on you?" Marcus's jaw tightened. Of course Lily had seen the video. Everyone had seen the video. "Yes, she's one of them." Lily's small face hardened with an expression that was pure Elena fierce and uncompromising. "I hope she goes to jail forever." Despite everything, Marcus almost smiled. His daughter had her mother's fire. "She will, baby, I promise." Officer Martinez appeared in the doorway. She was young, maybe 30, with a professional demeanor that suggested she took her job seriously. "Mr. Williams, I have some questions when you're ready." Marcus gently disentangled himself from Lily. "Stay here with Mrs. Patterson, okay? Daddy needs to talk to the police lady." "Okay." Lily hesitated. "Daddy, are we going to be okay?" Marcus knelt down to her level. "Yes, we are, because we're Williams and Williams don't quit." He stepped into the hallway with Officer Martinez. "I need to know everything," he said before she could speak. "Who did this, when, and how they knew to target my daughter?" Martinez's expression was professionally neutral. "We're investigating, but Mr. Williams, I should tell you, there's already media gathering outside the school. Someone tipped them off about the vandalism. They're connecting it to what happened at the Titan Industries gala tonight." Marcus cursed under his breath. Of course Victoria's people had called the press. This wasn't just about intimidating him. This was about controlling the narrative, making him look like a dangerous man whose enemies were willing to target his daughter. "I need protective detail for Lily," Marcus said. "Around the clock, starting now. We can recommend private security firms. No, I want police protection. Official. On the record. I want it documented that the CEO of Titan Industries is targeting my 8-year-old daughter." Martinez's eyes widened slightly. "That's a serious accusation, Mr. Williams." "It's not an accusation. It's a fact. 6 hours ago, I publicly exposed Victoria Chen for fraud and theft. 6 hours later, my daughter's school is vandalized with racial slurs. The security cameras were disabled by someone who knew the system. This was professional. This was deliberate. And this was Victoria Chen sending a message." He pulled out his phone and showed Martinez the text he'd received from Agent Torres. "The FBI is already investigating Titan Industries. This intimidation attempt needs to be part of that investigation." Martinez studied his face for a long moment. Something shifted in her expression. "Mr. Williams, I went to high school with Elena. She was 3 years ahead of me. Smartest person I ever met." Martinez's voice softened. "I know what Titan Industries did to her. Everyone in this town knows. They just couldn't prove it." She put her hand on his arm. "I'll make sure this gets documented properly, and I'll personally coordinate with federal authorities. Victoria Chen picked the wrong family to target." Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. An ally. In a sea of enemies and compromised officials, one honest cop who remembered Elena. "Thank you. One more thing." Martinez hesitated. "You should know Principal Henderson received a call about 30 minutes before we found the vandalism. Anonymous. The caller said there was a bomb threat and he needed to evacuate the building." "A bomb threat?" "False, obviously. But it got Henderson out of his office and the night guard scrambling. That's when someone disabled the cameras and did the spray painting." Marcus's mind raced. This was coordinated, sophisticated, the kind of operation that required resources and planning. Victoria had been preparing for war long before he made his move. "My daughter isn't safe here," Marcus said. "I'm taking her somewhere secure. Where? Somewhere Victoria Chen doesn't know about." He walked back into the principal's office and scooped up Lily, blanket and all. "Come on, baby. We're going on an adventure." "Where are we going, Daddy?" Marcus didn't answer. He carried his daughter out the back entrance of the school, avoiding the growing crowd of reporters at the front. His car was still parked in the lot, engine cold from the early morning air. He drove for 45 minutes, checking his mirrors constantly, taking random turns to shake any potential followers. Finally, he pulled up to a small house on the outskirts of the city. The kind of house no one noticed. The kind of house that wasn't registered in any name connected to Marcus Williams. Dorothy opened the door before he could knock. "I saw the news," she said, her face tight with concern. "They're already spinning it, saying you're an unstable man whose enemies are targeting his child." That's not far from the truth. Dorothy ushered them inside. Lily was half asleep now, exhausted from the night's trauma. Dorothy guided Marcus to a small bedroom where he could lay his daughter down. "She'll be safe here," Dorothy said. "This house belonged to my sister. No one knows I have access to it. There's no paper trail." Marcus tucked the blanket around Lily, watching her eyes flutter closed. "Sleep, baby. Daddy will be right here." He stepped back into Dorothy's living room. His phone was buzzing again. Dozens of new messages. The world was waking up and the story was spreading faster than he could control. "She's escalating," Marcus said quietly. "Targeting Lily. That's not just intimidation. That's war." "I know." Dorothy's voice was hard. "Which is why we need to escalate too." She pulled out her phone and dialed a number. "James?" "It's Dorothy." "Yes, I know what time it is. Wake up the others. Tell them it's time." She hung up and looked at Marcus. "There are 57 former Titan Industries employees who Victoria destroyed over the years. Fired, blacklisted, bankrupted, ruined. I've been in contact with all of them. They've been waiting for this moment." Waiting for what? To tell their stories. Every single one of them has evidence of Victoria's crimes. Separately, they were powerless. Together, they're an army. Marcus felt the first real surge of hope since finding Lily at the school. "How do we coordinate them?" "By morning, I'll have 15 of them ready to give interviews. By tomorrow evening, we'll have 30. By the end of the week, the entire nation will know exactly what kind of monster Victoria Chen is." Dorothy's eyes burned with decades of suppressed fury. "She thinks she can intimidate us by targeting your daughter. She has no idea what's coming. For 25 years, I watched her destroy innocent people. For 25 years, I kept records and made contacts and waited for someone brave enough to fight back." She grabbed Marcus's hand. "That fight starts now, and it doesn't end until Victoria Chen is in prison and Titan Industries is burned to the ground." Marcus's phone buzzed again. A text from Agent Torres. "Mr. Williams, I've been informed of the incident at your daughter's school. We need to talk. Meet me at the Federal Building at 8 a.m. Come alone." Marcus showed the message to Dorothy. "Torres is compromised," Dorothy reminded him. "Victoria paid for her daughter's medical school." "I know, but I need to know what she's going to do next. If I can figure out Victoria's legal strategy, we can get ahead of it." Dorothy considered this. "Be careful. Torres might be trying to trap you." "She might. But right now, I have 51% of Titan Industries and evidence that could put Victoria Chen away for life. Torres knows that. She has to decide whose side she's really on." He looked back at the bedroom where Lily slept. "Watch my daughter. Keep her safe. If anything happens." "Nothing will happen." Dorothy's voice was iron. "That little girl is the reason we're fighting. She's the future, and I'll protect her with my life." Marcus nodded. He pulled out the folder Dorothy had given him earlier, the media strategy, the list of journalists, the timeline for exposing Victoria's crimes. "Start calling reporters. Wake them up if you have to. I want the first stories live before the stock market opens." "And what are you going to do?" Marcus walked to the door. The early morning light was beginning to creep over the horizon. "I'm going to find out if Agent Torres wants to be a hero or a footnote." He stepped out into the dawn, his wife's memory burning in his heart, his daughter's safety weighing on his shoulders, and the entire weight of a corporate empire resting on his next decision. Victoria Chen had started this war. Marcus Williams was going to finish it. The Federal Building lobby was nearly empty at 7:45 in the morning. Marcus had arrived early, wanting time to observe, to think, to prepare for whatever trap Agent Torres might be setting. He found a seat near the security checkpoint and watched people filter through the metal detectors. Lawyers with briefcases, government employees with tired eyes and coffee cups, a janitor pushing a mop bucket across the polished floor. Normal people living normal lives. They had no idea that somewhere in this building, decisions were being made that could destroy him or set him free. His phone buzzed. Dorothy. First wave of interviews is going live in 30 minutes. CNN, MSNBC, and Fox all have former Titan employees ready to speak. The Washington Post is running an investigative piece at noon. Good. What's the social media response? The video from last night is still trending. 87 million views and counting. Public opinion is firmly on your side, but Victoria's PR team is working overtime. They're pushing the narrative that you're a dangerous stalker who manipulated a grieving employee to steal evidence. Dorothy Price doesn't look like someone who can be manipulated. No, she doesn't. That's why they're focusing on you. They're pulling up everything, your financial records, your work history, your wife's medical bills. They're trying to paint you as a desperate man who snapped. Marcus closed his eyes. He had expected this. It still hurt. How's Lily? Still sleeping. She had a nightmare around 6, but I got her settled. She's a strong girl, Marcus. Like her mother. Keep her safe. I'll call when I'm done with Torres. He hung up and checked his watch. 7:58. Time to find out what the FBI really wanted. Agent Rebecca Torres was waiting for him in a conference room on the 4th floor. She was younger than Marcus had expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and a carefully neutral expression. Her suit was expensive, but not flashy. The kind of clothes worn by someone who wanted to project authority without drawing attention. Mr. Williams, thank you for coming. Did I have a choice? Torres gestured to a chair across the table from her. We always have choices. Please sit. Marcus remained standing. Before we start, I want to know something. Victoria Chen paid for your daughter's medical school. Is this conversation being recorded, and am I speaking to an FBI agent or a Titan Industries asset? Torres's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Surprise, maybe? Or respect? You've done your homework. I've learned to be thorough. Answer the question. Torres leaned back in her chair. Yes, Victoria Chen contributed to a scholarship fund that helped pay for my daughter's education. I didn't know about the connection until 3 months ago when I was assigned to investigate Titan Industries. And what did you do when you found out? I disclosed it to my supervisors. They determined that since I wasn't aware of the arrangement when it occurred, and since I've never had direct contact with Victoria Chen, there was no conflict of interest. Marcus almost laughed. That's convenient. Mr. Williams, I understand your skepticism, but I need you to understand something. Torres stood and walked to the window. I became an FBI agent because I believe in justice, real justice, not the kind that gets bought and sold by people with money and power. She turned to face him. When I found out that Victoria Chen had essentially bought my daughter's future, I was furious. Not at my daughter, she had no idea, but at myself for not asking harder questions about where that scholarship money came from. So what are you going to do about it? Torres returned to the table and pulled out a folder. I'm going to do my job. Victoria Chen has filed criminal complaints against you, alleging securities fraud, market manipulation, illegal wiretapping, and corporate espionage. My job is to investigate those allegations. And your conclusion? Torres opened the folder. Based on my preliminary review of the evidence, Victoria Chen is full of crap. Marcus blinked. That was not what he'd expected. The stock acquisition you executed was legal. Complex, but legal. Your attorneys structured the purchases through legitimate investment vehicles with proper disclosure where required. There's no evidence of insider trading or market manipulation. She flipped to another page. The recordings Dorothy Price made are more complicated. Wiretapping laws vary by state, and some of those conversations occurred across state lines. But here's the thing. Dorothy was a participant in many of those conversations. She wasn't secretly recording private calls. She was recording meetings she attended as part of her job duties. Victoria's lawyers will argue she didn't consent to being recorded. They will. And some of those recordings might be inadmissible in court, but most of them won't be. And even the inadmissible ones can be used to establish probable cause for search warrants. Torres closed the folder and looked directly at Marcus. Mr. Williams, I'm going to be very clear with you. I didn't ask you here to arrest you or threaten you. I asked you here because I need your help. My help. Victoria Chen has been running a criminal enterprise for at least 20 years. She's bribed politicians, stolen intellectual property, destroyed competitors, and ruined lives. But she's also been very, very careful. Every crime is hidden behind layers of shell companies and plausible deniability. Every witness has been paid off or intimidated into silence. Torres leaned forward. Until now. You've done something no one else has managed to do. You've cracked her armor. You've got control of her company. You've got Dorothy Price and her 25 years of documentation. And you've got the public's attention. What do you want from me? I want you to keep fighting. Keep her off balance. Keep forcing her to make mistakes. Torres's voice intensified. Victoria Chen made a critical error when she had her son pour champagne on your head. She got emotional. She got petty. And she got caught on camera. Marcus finally sat down. She's going to fight back harder. She already targeted my daughter. I know. I saw the report from Officer Martinez. Torres's jaw tightened. That was a mistake too. Targeting a child generates sympathy for you and outrage against her. Victoria's usually smarter than that. She's scared. She should be. Mr. Williams, I'm going to tell you something that isn't public knowledge yet. The search warrants we executed last night at Titan Industries headquarters turned up evidence that goes far beyond financial fraud. Torres hesitated, as if weighing how much to reveal. We found documentation of industrial sabotage, deliberate destruction of competitors' equipment, falsified safety reports that led to workplace accidents at rival companies, and evidence that at least 3 whistleblowers who tried to expose Titan over the years died under suspicious circumstances. Marcus felt ice form in his stomach. You're saying Victoria Chen is a murderer. I'm saying the investigation is expanding beyond white-collar crime. I'm saying that what you started last night has opened doors that were sealed for decades. She stood and extended her hand. I need you to keep doing what you're doing. Every interview Dorothy's people give puts more pressure on Victoria. Every document you release forces her to respond. Every day she spends fighting you is a day she isn't covering her tracks. Marcus shook her hand. And what are you going to do? My job. Torres almost smiled. For the first time in my career, I'm going to bring down someone who thought they were untouchable. Victoria Chen bought my daughter's education, thinking it would buy my loyalty. She was wrong. Marcus left the federal building at 9:15. His phone immediately exploded with notifications. The first wave of interviews had gone live while he was talking to Torres, and the reaction was overwhelming. Dorothy called within seconds of him reaching his car. Marcus, are you watching? It's everywhere. He pulled up a news stream on his phone. A woman in her 60s was speaking to a CNN interviewer, tears streaming down her face. I worked for Titan Industries for 18 years. I was a senior engineer. I helped design systems that made them billions of dollars. And then one day, I reported a safety violation that could have killed workers, and Victoria Chen had me fired, blacklisted. I couldn't get a job in the industry for 5 years. The interviewer leaned in. What did you do during those 5 years? I lost my house. My marriage fell apart. I had to move in with my elderly mother. Victoria Chen didn't just fire me, she destroyed my life, because I tried to do the right thing. Marcus switched to another channel. A different face, a similar story. They stole my research. 18 months of work. Victoria's team copied my designs, filed patents under their own names, and then sued me for intellectual property theft. I spent 3 years in court fighting them. By the time I won, I was bankrupt. Another channel. Another victim. My brother worked at a company that competed with Titan. There was an accident at their facility. 3 people died, including him. Years later, I found out that Titan had bribed a safety inspector to overlook violations that caused the explosion. Victoria Chen killed my brother to eliminate a competitor. Marcus closed the app. His hands were shaking. "How many people are talking?" he asked Dorothy. 15 this morning. Another 20 scheduled for this afternoon. By tonight, we'll have 40 stories of Victoria Chen's victims on national television. What's Victoria doing? Emergency press conference in 1 hour. She's going to try to get ahead of the narrative. Marcus started his car. I need to be there. Marcus, that's dangerous. She knows what you look like. Her security... I'll stay in the crowd, but I need to see her face. I need to see how she responds when her empire is crumbling. He drove toward Titan Industries headquarters, navigating through increasingly heavy traffic. As he got closer, he could see the crowds gathering. Protesters on one side, supporters on another. Media vans lined up for blocks. Helicopters circling overhead. Victoria Chen had never faced anything like this. For 40 years, she had operated in the shadows, crushing opposition before it could grow, buying silence when necessary. Now she was about to step into the spotlight with nowhere to hide. Marcus parked 3 blocks away and walked the rest of the distance. He wore a baseball cap pulled low and sunglasses, the universal disguise of people who didn't want to be recognized. He found a spot near the back of the media crowd where he could see the podium that had been set up on the steps of Titan headquarters. At exactly 10 a.m., Victoria Chen emerged. She was flanked by lawyers and PR handlers, but she walked alone to the microphone. Her face was composed, her hair perfect, her suit immaculate. She looked like a woman in complete control, but Marcus could see her hands. They were gripping the podium with white-knuckled intensity. "Good morning," Victoria began. "I want to address the allegations that have been circulating in the media over the past 12 hours. Her voice was steady, professional. The voice of a CEO addressing shareholders. "First, let me be clear. Titan Industries has done nothing wrong. The accusations being made against our company are fabrications, lies spread by a disturbed individual who has been stalking my family for years." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Cameras clicked and whirred. Marcus Williams is not a victim. He is a predator. He orchestrated an illegal takeover of my company through fraudulent means. He manipulated a former employee to steal confidential documents. And last night, his actions forced me to protect my family in the only way I knew how. Victoria paused, her eyes glistening with practiced tears. My son Bradley is 16 years old. He's just a child. And for the past year, he has been terrorized by Marcus Williams. Threatened. Followed. Photographed without his consent. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. Every word was a lie. Last night, Bradley tried to stand up to his tormentor. He reacted the way any frightened teenager would react when confronted by the man who has been stalking his family. He made a mistake. He acted out of fear. Victoria dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. My son has been receiving death threats since last night. Death threats against a child. Is this the kind of society we want to live in? One where a disturbed individual can destroy a family's reputation and safety through viral videos and manufactured evidence? She straightened her expression, hardening. I will not be intimidated. Titan Industries will not be destroyed by lies. We are fully cooperating with law enforcement to expose Marcus Williams for what he really is, a dangerous man who will stop at nothing to get revenge for imagined wrongs. A reporter shouted a question. Mrs. Chen, what about the dozens of former employees who are publicly accusing you of fraud and retaliation? Victoria's smile was cold. Disgruntled employees will say anything for 15 minutes of fame. Every major corporation has former workers who are bitter about their terminations. That doesn't make their accusations true. Another reporter. Mrs. Chen, federal agents searched your headquarters last night. Are you under criminal investigation? The FBI is conducting a routine inquiry based on false information provided by Marcus Williams. I am confident that when the investigation is complete, I will be fully exonerated. What about the recordings Dorothy Price made? The ones where you allegedly admit to stealing Elena Williams's patents? Victoria's composure cracked for just a moment. A flash of fury crossed her face before she controlled it. Dorothy Price was a trusted employee who betrayed my family's confidence. Her so-called recordings are fabricated, manipulated. Our audio experts have confirmed that they've been digitally altered to put words in my mouth that I never said. Marcus pulled out his phone and started recording. Victoria was lying on national television, and he wanted every second documented. The real story here is not Titan Industries, Victoria continued. The real story is how a grieving widower descended into madness and decided to blame my company for his wife's death from cancer. She looked directly into the camera. Elena Williams was a brilliant woman. Her death was a tragedy. But cancer killed her, not Titan Industries, and no amount of conspiracy theories will change that fact. Marcus's vision went red. He wanted to storm the podium, to scream the truth in Victoria's face, to show the world the monster behind the mask. But he stayed frozen, watching, waiting. Because he knew something Victoria didn't know. He knew that Agent Torres was watching this press conference too, and every lie Victoria told was digging her grave deeper. His phone buzzed. Dorothy. Marcus, where are you? At the press conference, watching her lie to the world. You need to leave. Now. Something's happened. What? Victoria's people released a video. They're claiming it shows you threatening Bradley before the gala. They're playing it on every network. Marcus's blood went cold. That's impossible. I never even saw Bradley before the champagne incident. I know, but the video looks real. They use some kind of AI technology to fake it. And Marcus, they're showing it to a judge right now. They're trying to get an emergency order to freeze your shares in Titan Industries. Marcus pushed through the crowd heading for his car. How long do we have? Maybe an hour. If the judge grants the injunction, you lose control of the company. Victoria's board can vote to reinstate her. Everything we've done will be for nothing. Marcus broke into a run. Call our lawyers. Call Agent Torres. Call everyone. I'm already on it. But Marcus, there's something else. He reached his car and fumbled with the keys. What? Lily woke up. She's asking for you. She had another nightmare. She keeps saying she wants her daddy. Marcus felt his chest constrict. His daughter needed him. His company needed him. The entire battle was balanced on a knife's edge, and he couldn't be in two places at once. Tell her I'll be there soon. Tell her Daddy loves her more than anything. I will, but Marcus, hurry. I have a bad feeling about this. He disconnected and peeled out of the parking space tires, screaming against asphalt. The drive to the courthouse took 23 minutes. He ran every red light, daring the police to stop him. The courtroom was packed when he arrived. Reporters, lawyers, spectators, all crammed into the gallery. At the front of the room, Victoria's legal team was presenting their case to Judge Harold Patterson, a man whose name Marcus recognized from Dorothy's files. Judge Patterson had received $200,000 in campaign contributions from Titan Industries PACs over the past decade. Marcus's lawyers were there too, fighting desperately to prevent the injunction. But from the look on their faces, they were losing. Your Honor, the evidence clearly shows that Mr. Williams obtained his shares through fraudulent means, Victoria's lead attorney was saying. He used shell companies to disguise his identity. He manipulated market conditions to drive down stock prices. And he coordinated with a disgruntled former employee to steal confidential trade secrets. Marcus's attorney stood. Your Honor, these allegations are baseless. My client acquired Titan Industries shares through legitimate investment channels. Every transaction was properly disclosed. There is no evidence of fraud or manipulation. Judge Patterson looked at the video playing on a screen at the front of the courtroom. The deepfake. Marcus threatening Bradley in a darkened hallway. "Mr. Williams," the judge said, "can you explain this footage?" Marcus stood. "That video is fake, Your Honor. I never spoke to Bradley Chen before the incident at the gala. That footage has been manufactured using artificial intelligence to put words in my mouth that I never said." "Do you have proof of that?" "Digital forensics experts are analyzing the video right now. We expect to have confirmation within hours that it's been fabricated." "Hours?" Judge Patterson raised an eyebrow. "The petitioners are asking for an emergency injunction right now. Your speculation about future evidence is not relevant to this proceeding." Victoria's attorney stepped forward. "Your Honor, the situation is urgent. Marcus Williams currently controls 51% of Titan Industries. If he's allowed to maintain that control while making wild accusations against Mrs. Chen, the company will suffer irreparable harm. Investors are fleeing. Stock prices are collapsing. Thousands of jobs are at risk." "Your Honor," Marcus said, his voice rising, "Victoria Chen is lying. She stole my wife's patents. She destroyed my wife's career. She contributed to my wife's death. And now she's using fake evidence to cover up her crimes." "Those are very serious allegations, Mr. Williams." "They're not allegations. They're facts. The FBI is investigating. Former employees are coming forward. There are recordings documents, financial records, all proving that Victoria Chen has been running a criminal enterprise for decades." Judge Patterson studied Marcus for a long moment. Then he turned to Victoria's legal team. "Counselor, has Mrs. Chen submitted to questioning by federal investigators?" "Mrs. Chen is fully cooperating with all legitimate law enforcement inquiries, Your Honor." "That's not what I asked. Has she been questioned?" Victoria's attorney hesitated. Mrs. Chen invoked her Fifth Amendment rights during an initial interview, on advice of counsel. A murmur ran through the courtroom. Judge Patterson leaned back. "So Mrs. Chen is refusing to answer questions from federal investigators, but she wants me to freeze Mr. Williams' legally acquired shares based on a video that he claims is fabricated. The video speaks for itself, Your Honor." "Does it?" Patterson turned back to Marcus. "Mr. Williams, you claim this video is fake. What evidence do you have right now, not in a few hours, but right now to support that claim?" Marcus felt desperation clawing at his throat. The forensics report wasn't ready. He had nothing but his word against a video that millions of people were watching right now. Then his phone buzzed. A text from Dorothy. "Check your email. Now." Marcus pulled out his phone. "Your Honor, may I have one moment? Make it quick." Marcus opened his email. Dorothy had sent a video file with a single line of text. Bradley Chen's phone. "Recovered from the school this morning." He opened the file. It was Bradley Chen standing in the hallway outside the gala talking to his mother. The timestamp was 7:15 p.m., before Marcus had even arrived. "Mom, I don't want to do this." Victoria's voice was impatient. "Don't be weak, Bradley. This is what we talked about. When Williams arrives, you walk up to him and pour the champagne on his head. Make sure your friends are filming." "But what if he fights back? What if he won't do anything. Men like him never do. They take the abuse because they think it makes them look dignified. Trust me, I've done this 100 times." "What if I get in trouble?" "You won't. You're my son. No one touches my son." Victoria's voice hardened. "Now stop whining and do what I told you. This is the family business. Either you learn to play the game, or you'll never be worth anything." The video ended. Marcus looked up at Judge Patterson. "Your Honor, I'd like to submit new evidence." He played the video on his phone, holding it up so the entire courtroom could see. Victoria's voice echoed off the walls, her instructions to her son, her casual cruelty, her admission that she had orchestrated the attack. The courtroom exploded. Reporters started shouting questions. Victoria's lawyers were on their feet objecting to everything. The gallery erupted in chaos. Through it all, Marcus kept his eyes on Victoria Chen, who was sitting in the front row. Her face had gone white. Her mask had finally cracked. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Marcus Williams smiled. Judge Patterson banged his gavel until order was restored. "This court is in recess for 1 hour. I want both legal teams in my chambers immediately. And someone get the FBI on the phone." He pointed at Victoria. "Mrs. Chen, I strongly suggest you not leave this building." Victoria stood frozen as the courtroom emptied around her. Her lawyers were rushing toward her, but she didn't seem to see them. She was staring at Marcus. And in her eyes he saw something he had waited 3 years to see. Fear. Real fear. The kind that comes when you finally realize you're not untouchable. When you understand that the world you built on lies and cruelty is crumbling beneath your feet. Marcus walked past her without a word. He had a phone call to make. Lily needed to know that Daddy was winning. Marcus stepped out of the courthouse into chaos. Reporters swarmed him immediately. Microphones thrust in his face, cameras flashing from every direction. Questions flew at him faster than he could process. "Mr. Williams, where did that video come from? Is Victoria Chen going to be arrested? How do you feel about finally exposing the truth?" Marcus raised his hand. "I'll make a full statement later. Right now, I need to see my daughter." He pushed through the crowd, ignoring the shouted questions, the grabbing hands, the desperate attempts to get one more quote. His security team, hired just that morning on Dorothy's recommendation, formed a protective barrier around him as they made their way to the waiting car. His phone rang as soon as he was inside. Dorothy. "Marcus, are you watching the news?" "I'm trying to get to Lily. What's happening?" "Everything. The video you played in court is everywhere. Every network, every social media platform. Victoria Chen instructing her son to assault you, it's the only story anyone's talking about." Marcus leaned his head against the cool window glass. Exhaustion was starting to creep in around the edges of his adrenaline. "How's Lily?" "She's okay. She's been watching cartoons and eating the pancakes I made her. But she keeps asking when you're coming back." "I'm 20 minutes out. Maybe less if traffic cooperates." "Marcus, there's something else." Dorothy's voice dropped. "Agent Torres called. Victoria Chen tried to leave the courthouse through a back entrance. The FBI arrested her in the parking garage." Marcus closed his eyes. 3 years. 3 years of planning, of patience, of burning rage held carefully in check. And now it was finally happening. "What are the charges?" "I don't have the full list yet, but Torres mentioned fraud, obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and conspiracy. She said more charges are likely as the investigation expands." "What about Bradley?" "He's being questioned by Child Protective Services. Apparently he broke down crying the moment his mother was led away. He kept saying he was sorry that he didn't want to do it, that she made him." Marcus felt an unexpected pang of sympathy. Bradley Chen was a victim too, in his own way. Raised by a monster trained to be cruel, never given a chance to develop his own moral compass. Make sure someone's looking after him, someone who isn't connected to Victoria. Already done. Torres has a child psychologist meeting with him this afternoon. Marcus's car pulled up to Dorothy's sister's house. He was out the door before the vehicle fully stopped racing up the front steps, bursting through the entrance. "Daddy!" Lily launched herself at him from the couch, wrapping her small arms around his neck with fierce intensity. Marcus lifted her, holding her against his chest, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo and the breakfast she'd eaten. "Hey, baby. Daddy's here." "I was scared," Lily whispered into his shoulder. "I had bad dreams about the mean lady." "I know, sweetheart, but you don't have to be scared anymore. The mean lady can't hurt us now." Dorothy appeared in the doorway, her eyes red-rimmed but smiling. "She's been very brave. We watched Frozen twice and ate an entire plate of chocolate chip pancakes. Marcus set Lily down but kept hold of her hand. Thank you, Dorothy, for everything. Don't thank me yet. This isn't over. Victoria's people are still out there. Her lawyers are already working on bail, and there are board members at Titan who might try to use the chaos to make their own moves. I know. Marcus led Lily to the couch and sat down beside her. But right now I need an hour with my daughter. Just 1 hour. Then we can figure out the next steps. Dorothy nodded. I'll be in the kitchen. The news is saying the judge denied Victoria's injunction. Your shares are safe. She left them alone. Marcus pulled Lily close, feeling her small body relax against his. For a few precious minutes, he wasn't a CEO or a crusader or a widower seeking justice. He was just a father holding his daughter. Daddy! Lily's voice was drowsy. The stress and fear were catching up with her. Yes, baby. Is Mommy watching from heaven? Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. Yes, sweetheart. Mommy's watching. And she's very, very proud of you. Is she proud of you too? He thought about Elena. About her strength, her brilliance, her unwavering belief that truth always wins in the end. She had died before she could see her faith vindicated. But somewhere, somehow Marcus believed she knew. I hope so, baby. I really hope so. Lily fell asleep within minutes, exhausted by the trauma of the past 24 hours. Marcus sat with her, watching her breathe, memorizing the curve of her cheek and the flutter of her eyelashes. This was what he was fighting for. Not revenge, not justice in the abstract. This little girl who had already lost her mother and deserved a future free from fear and cruelty. His phone buzzed. A text from a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Williams, this is Bradley Chen. I know you have no reason to believe me, but I'm sorry. For everything. I never wanted to hurt you. She made me. Marcus stared at the message for a long moment. Then he typed a response. I believe you. What happened isn't your fault. Get help. Break the cycle. He put the phone away and closed his eyes, letting himself rest for the first time in what felt like years. 2 hours later, Marcus was back in the fight. Dorothy had set up a command center in her sister's living room. Multiple laptops displayed news feeds, social media monitoring, and stock tickers. Her network of former Titan employees was coordinating through encrypted messaging apps. Legal teams were on standby across 3 time zones. Victoria made bail, Dorothy reported grimly. $10 million. She'll be under house arrest with an ankle monitor, but she's out. Marcus nodded. He had expected this. People like Victoria Chen didn't stay in jail cells, at least not until after conviction. What's she doing now? Regrouping. Her PR team is trying to spin the video as edited or taken out of context. They're claiming you somehow fabricated it to frame her. That won't work. The metadata on the video clearly shows it's authentic. It was recorded on Bradley's phone months ago and transferred to school cloud storage as part of an automatic backup. They know that. But they're playing for time. Every hour they can muddy the waters is another hour for Victoria to hide assets, destroy evidence, and pressure witnesses. Marcus stood and walked to the window. Outside, unmarked cars sat at both ends of the street, FBI surveillance, he assumed. They weren't taking chances with Victoria's capacity for retaliation. What's the status at Titan Industries? Chaos. Dorothy pulled up a financial summary. Stock is down 42% from yesterday. 3 board members have resigned. The CFO is cooperating with federal investigators in exchange for immunity. And your majority stake is holding steady. Good. I want an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning. It's time to take official control. Are you sure that's wise? You've never run a company this size. Victoria's loyalists on the board will fight you every step of the way. I don't want to run it. I want to fix it. Marcus turned to face Dorothy. Titan Industries doesn't need to be destroyed. It employs 60,000 people. It provides energy to millions of homes. It has the potential to be a force for good in the world. But with Victoria's poison running through its veins, That's what we're going to change. New leadership, new values, new accountability. Marcus's voice hardened. And the first order of business is returning every piece of stolen intellectual property to its rightful owners. Dorothy's eyes glistened, including Elena's patents. Especially Elena's patents. They're going back to her estate, to Lily, where they always belonged. The phone rang. Agent Torres. Marcus answered on speaker. Tell me you have good news. Mixed news. Torres sounded tired but energized. Victoria's bail hearing went smoothly for her, but we used the time to execute additional search warrants, her personal residence, her vacation homes, and a storage facility she thought we didn't know about. What did you find? Evidence. Lots of it. She was sloppy, Mr. Williams. She never thought anyone would get close enough to look. We found physical copies of documents she claims don't exist. We found recordings she made of her own conversations. Apparently she was paranoid about being betrayed by her own people. Ironic. Very. But here's the most important part. We found financial records linking Victoria to 3 deaths that were previously ruled accidents. Marcus's blood went cold. Deaths. Former competitors and whistleblowers. We're still building the cases, but it looks like Victoria arranged for them to be eliminated when they got too close to exposing her crimes. Dorothy grabbed Marcus's arm, her face pale. Marcus! Elena! He couldn't breathe. The thought had crossed his mind before, but he'd pushed it away. Elena died of cancer. That was a fact. Medical records, doctors, treatments, all documented. But what if there was more to it? Agent Torres, Marcus said slowly. My wife, Elena Williams, died of cancer 3 years ago. But Victoria's legal attacks had drained our resources. Elena couldn't afford experimental treatments that might have saved her life. I know. Torres's voice was gentle. We're looking into it. There may be grounds for civil charges related to the financial devastation Victoria caused. But Mr. Williams, I have to be honest, proving that Victoria's actions contributed to your wife's death would be very difficult. I understand. However, there's something else. One of the deaths we're investigating involved a man named Robert Chen, Victoria's brother. Marcus blinked. Victoria killed her own brother. We don't have proof yet. But Robert was about to go public with information about Victoria's illegal activities back in 2015. He died in a car accident 2 weeks before the scheduled press conference. At the time, it was ruled an accident. Now we're not so sure. The line was quiet for a moment. Mr. Williams, Victoria Chen is not just a white-collar criminal. She may be a murderer, multiple times over. This investigation is going to take months, possibly years. But I promise you, we will get to the truth. Thank you, Agent Torres. Thank you. Without your courage and Dorothy's documentation, none of this would be possible. You two changed everything. Marcus hung up and looked at Dorothy. She was crying silently, tears running down her weathered cheeks. 25 years, she whispered. 25 years I watched that woman. I knew she was evil, but I never imagined. You couldn't have known. But I suspected. There were moments, comments she made, the way she laughed when certain names came up in conversation. Dorothy's voice broke. I should have done more. I should have come forward sooner. Marcus knelt beside her, taking her hands in his. Dorothy, listen to me. You did everything you could. You kept records when no one else was paying attention. You preserved evidence that will put Victoria Chen away for the rest of her life. You waited for the right moment, and when it came, you acted. He squeezed her hands. Elena would be so grateful for what you've done. She believed in you. She told me to find you. She knew you were the key to everything. Dorothy looked up at him, her eyes red and swollen. Your wife was extraordinary. The bravest person I ever met. She was. And she's watching right now. I know she is. The next morning, Marcus walked into the Titan Industries boardroom as its majority shareholder. The tension was thick enough to cut. 12 faces stared at him from around the polished table, some hostile, some curious, some carefully neutral. These were people who had spent their careers serving Victoria Chen. They didn't know what to expect from the man who had brought her down. Marcus took his seat at the head of the table. His legal team flanked him on both sides. Dorothy sat in the gallery, silent witness to the moment she had spent 25 years making possible. "Good morning," Marcus began. "I'm sure you all have questions about what happens next. I'm here to answer them." Gerald Morrison, the most senior board member, spoke first. "Mr. Williams, with respect, you have no experience running a company of this size. How can we be confident you won't drive Titan into the ground?" "You can't be confident. Not yet. But I'm not here to run Titan Industries. I'm here to fix it." Marcus pulled out a document and slid it across the table. "This is my proposal. I will serve as interim chairman for 6 months while we identify permanent leadership. During that time, I will focus on 3 priorities. First, cooperating fully with all federal investigations. Second, returning stolen intellectual property to its rightful owners. Third, compensating victims of Victoria Chen's crimes." Murmurs rippled around the table. "Compensating victims?" another board member asked. "That could cost billions." "It will cost billions, but it's the right thing to do. Victoria Chen built this company on theft and destruction. If Titan Industries is going to survive, it needs to make amends. And if we refuse..." Marcus's expression hardened. "Then I'll liquidate my shares and let the company collapse. 60,000 employees will lose their jobs. Shareholders will be wiped out. And every single one of you will be remembered as the people who chose greed over justice." Silence. "But I don't think you'll refuse," Marcus continued, "because most of you aren't bad people. You're professionals who worked for a company you believed in. You didn't know the full extent of Victoria's crimes. You trusted her. She betrayed that trust." He looked around the table, meeting each person's eyes in turn. "Now you have a choice. Help me rebuild this company into something worthy of trust, something Elena would have been proud of, or walk away and live with the consequences." Gerald Morrison was the first to speak. "Mr. Williams, I've been on this board for 18 years. I watched Victoria rise to power. I saw things that troubled me, but I told myself it wasn't my concern. I was wrong." He straightened in his chair. "I don't know if Titan can be saved, but I know we have to try. You have my support." One by one, other board members voiced their agreement, some reluctantly, some with genuine enthusiasm. By the end of the meeting, Marcus had unanimous backing for his transition plan. As the room emptied, Dorothy approached him. "You did it," she said quietly. "You actually did it. We did it. None of this happens without you." Dorothy smiled, the first genuine smile Marcus had seen from her. "What happens now?" "Now comes the hard part. Rebuilding, healing, making sure nothing like this ever happens again." Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from the secure phone he'd given Lily's caretaker. "Lily wants to know if you're coming home for dinner." He typed back, "Tell her Daddy will be there, and tell her we're having ice cream to celebrate." 3 weeks later, Victoria Chen stood before a federal judge for her arraignment. The charges had multiplied since her initial arrest: securities fraud, wire fraud, tax evasion, conspiracy to commit murder, witness tampering, obstruction of justice. The list went on for 3 pages. Marcus sat in the gallery watching the woman who had destroyed his wife's life reduced to a defendant in an orange jumpsuit. Her perfect hair was now limp and unwashed. Her designer clothes had been replaced by prison-issue cotton. Her confident posture had collapsed into a defeated slump. The judge read each charge. Victoria responded to each one with the same 2 words, "Not guilty." But everyone in the room knew the truth. The evidence was overwhelming. Dorothy's recordings, the financial records, the testimony of dozens of witnesses, the confession of Victoria's own son, who had agreed to testify against his mother in exchange for psychiatric treatment instead of juvenile detention. When the arraignment was over, Marcus waited outside the courthouse. He knew Victoria would be let out through a side entrance away from the cameras. But he wanted to be there anyway. He wanted her to see him. She emerged in handcuffs flanked by U.S. Marshals. When she saw Marcus, she stopped walking. "You think you've won?" Victoria's voice was hoarse, barely recognizable. "You think this is over?" Marcus stepped forward. The marshals tensed, but he kept his hands visible and his movements slow. "I don't think I've won, Victoria. I know I have. Your company is mine. Your assets are frozen. Your family name is destroyed. And you're going to spend the rest of your life in a federal prison." Victoria's eyes blazed with hatred. "I'll appeal. I'll fight. I have resources you can't imagine." "You had resources. Past tense. Your offshore accounts have been seized. Your properties have been confiscated. Your allies have all turned against you." Marcus's voice dropped. "You have nothing left, Victoria. Nothing but the memory of all the people you destroyed." "Your wife was weak." Victoria spat. "She couldn't handle the pressure. That's not my fault." Marcus felt rage surge through him, but he kept his voice steady. "Elena was the strongest person I ever knew. She fought you with everything she had, even when she was dying. And you know what? She won, because her work lives on. Her patents are being used to power clean energy projects around the world. Her name is being honored by the very company you built on her stolen ideas." He leaned closer. "And her daughter, our daughter, is growing up knowing that her mother was a hero. That truth and justice are worth fighting for. That monsters like you can be defeated." Victoria's face contorted. "You think you're so righteous. You're just like everyone else. You wanted power. You wanted revenge. You're no better than me." Marcus shook his head slowly. "That's where you're wrong, Victoria. I didn't want power. I wanted my wife back. I can't have that. But I can make sure her memory is honored. I can make sure her work changes the world. And I can make sure that no one ever suffers the way she did at your hands." He stepped back. "Goodbye, Victoria. I hope prison gives you time to think about all the lives you destroyed, including your own." The marshals led her away. She was still screaming insults, but Marcus didn't hear them. He was already walking toward his car, toward his daughter, toward the future Elena had dreamed of, but never lived to see. That evening, Marcus sat on Lily's bed, reading her a story. It was one of Elena's favorites, a tale about a princess who saves her kingdom, not with violence, but with wisdom and courage. "Daddy," Lily interrupted. "Is the mean lady really going to jail?" "Yes, sweetheart. For a very long time." "Good." Lily's voice was fierce. "She hurt Mommy. She deserves to be punished." Marcus stroked her hair. "She does. But you know what's more important than punishment." "What?" "Making sure the people she hurt are taken care of. And making sure it never happens again. That's what Daddy's going to do now. Help people who were hurt. Build something good." Lily considered this. "Like Mommy wanted. Exactly like Mommy wanted." His daughter was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Daddy, I dreamed about Mommy last night." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "What did she say?" "She said she's proud of you. She said we're going to be okay." Lily looked up at him with Elena's eyes. "Are we going to be okay, Daddy?" Marcus pulled her close. "Yes, baby. We're going to be more than okay. We're going to be amazing." He held her until she fell asleep, then quietly left the room. In the hallway, he paused to look at the photo of Elena that hung on the wall. Her smile, her brilliant, knowing eyes. "I did it, Elena," he whispered. "I finished what you started. And I promise you, I'll take care of our girl. Every day for the rest of my life." He touched the photo gently, then walked away. There was still work to do. A company to rebuild, victims to compensate, a world to change. But for the first time in 3 years, Marcus Williams felt something like peace. 6 months passed like a river finding its course after a storm. Marcus stood at the window of his new office on the 47th floor of Titan Industries headquarters, the same building where Victoria Chen had once ruled with an iron fist, the same view she had gazed upon while plotting the destruction of anyone who dared challenge her. But everything else had changed. "Mr. Williams." His assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Dorothy Price is here for your 10 o'clock. Send her in." Dorothy entered looking 10 years younger than she had the night Marcus first met her. The weight she had carried for 25 years had finally lifted. Her silver hair was styled elegantly, her posture straight and proud, her eyes bright with purpose. "You look good behind that desk," she said, settling into the chair across from him. "Better than she ever did." "I'm just keeping the seat warm. The new CEO starts next month. Sarah Chen. No relation to Victoria, I assume." Marcus smiled. "No relation. MIT graduate. 20 years of clean energy experience. Impeccable ethics record. The board approved her unanimously." Dorothy nodded with satisfaction. "And what about you? What happens to Marcus Williams when he's no longer interim chairman?" Marcus turned back to the window. In the distance, he could see construction cranes rising over the site where the Elena Williams Innovation Center was being built, a state-of-the-art facility dedicated to clean energy research funded entirely by Titan Industries as part of its restitution program. "I'm going to focus on the foundation," Marcus said. "We've already helped over 200 families affected by Victoria's crimes, but there are thousands more. People who lost jobs, lost homes, lost loved ones. They need someone fighting for them. And Lily, she's doing better. The therapist says she's processing everything remarkably well. Kids are resilient." Marcus paused. "She asked me last night if Mommy would be proud of what we did." "What did you tell her?" "I told her the truth. That her mother would be prouder of who she's becoming than anything else. Kind, brave, honest." Marcus's voice softened. "Elena always said that character matters more than achievement. I'm trying to teach Lily that lesson." Dorothy stood and walked to the window beside him. "I have something to show you." She pulled out her phone and opened a video. It was Bradley Chen, sitting in what looked like a therapist's office. He was speaking to the camera, his face serious, but calm. "My name is Bradley Chen. I'm 17 years old, and for most of my life, I was raised to believe that power meant hurting people, that wealth meant never having to care about anyone else's feelings, that success was measured by how many people you could crush on your way up." Bradley paused, visibly collecting himself. "I was wrong. My mother was wrong. And the things I did under her influence, including pouring champagne on a good man who had never done anything to hurt me, were wrong." Tears began to form in the teenager's eyes. "I'm making this video because I want other kids who grow up in toxic families to know that it's not their fault, that they can choose to be different, that the cycle can be broken." He looked directly into the camera. "I'm choosing to be different. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. But Mr. Williams showed me it was possible when he visited me after everything happened. He could have hated me. He should have hated me. Instead, he told me I could be better." The video ended. Marcus stared at the frozen image of Bradley's face. The same face that had sneered at him while filming his humiliation. The same face that was now trying to find its way toward redemption. When did he make this? Last week. His therapist thought it would help him process his guilt. He asked me to show it to you. Dorothy put her phone away. He's enrolled in a public school now, living with his maternal grandmother. No more private jets or designer watches. Just a kid trying to figure out who he is without his mother's poison. How's he doing? Struggling. The other kids know who he is. Some of them bully him. Some avoid him entirely. Dorothy shrugged. But he's sticking with it. He told his grandmother that he deserves whatever they throw at him, that it's nothing compared to what he and his mother did to other people. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "I want to set up a trust for his education, nothing extravagant. just enough to make sure he has opportunities if he earns them. Dorothy's eyebrows rose. You want to help the boy who assaulted you on camera. I want to help a kid break free from a monster's influence. There's a difference. Marcus met her eyes. Elena would have done the same thing. She believed everyone deserves a chance to change, even the people who hurt her. You're a better man than most, Marcus Williams. I'm just trying to be worthy of the woman I loved. The intercom buzzed again. Mr. Williams, Agent Torres is on line 1. She says it's urgent. Marcus picked up the phone. Agent Torres, what's happening? Victoria Chen attempted suicide in her cell this morning. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. Is she? She's alive, barely. They found her in time and she's in the prison hospital now. Torres's voice was professionally neutral, but Marcus could hear the strain underneath. I thought you should know before it hits the media. Why did she do it? Hard to say. Maybe the reality of spending the rest of her life in prison finally sank in. Maybe she couldn't handle losing her power and status. Or maybe... Torres paused. Maybe she finally had to face what she's done. Some people can't survive their own conscience. Marcus sat down heavily. He should feel something satisfaction maybe, or at least vindication. But all he felt was empty, tired, sad for a life so consumed by greed and cruelty that death seemed preferable to accountability. What happens now? Nothing changes legally. Her trial proceeds as scheduled. If she recovers, she'll face the charges. If she doesn't, Torres let the sentence hang. Either way, justice will be served. Marcus hung up and looked at Dorothy. Victoria tried to kill herself. Dorothy's expression didn't change. I heard. She had been standing close enough to catch Torres's words. How do you feel? I don't know. I thought I would feel something. Relief maybe? Or closure. But I just feel... He searched for the word. Empty. That's because you're not a monster, Marcus. You didn't want Victoria dead. You wanted her held accountable. There's a difference. Is there? Sometimes I'm not sure. Dorothy sat down across from him, her eyes fierce and clear. Listen to me carefully. Victoria Chen made her choices. Every day for 40 years, she chose cruelty over kindness. She chose theft over honest work. She chose destruction over creation. And when she was finally caught, when there was nowhere left to run, she chose to escape rather than face the consequences. Dorothy's voice hardened. That's not your fault. That's not justice's fault. That's the inevitable result of a life built on lies and evil. You gave her something she never gave any of her victims a fair trial. The chance to defend herself. The opportunity to tell her side of the story. She's the one who couldn't face it. Marcus nodded slowly. Dorothy was right. He knew she was right. But the weight of everything that had happened pressed down on him like a physical force. I need to see Lily, he said finally. I need to hold my daughter and remember why I did all this. Dorothy smiled gently. Go. I'll handle things here. Sarah Chen is coming in for a preliminary meeting this afternoon. I can brief her on the transition plan. Marcus stood gathering his jacket. Thank you, Dorothy, for everything. From the very beginning. Don't thank me yet. We've still got work to do. The foundation launch is next week. The victim compensation program is still being finalized. And the congressional testimony? I know. Marcus held up his hand. But right now in this moment, I need you to know that none of this would have happened without you. You kept records when everyone else looked away. You waited when everyone else gave up. You believed in justice when it seemed impossible. He crossed the room and embraced her. Elena was right about you. You were the key to everything. Dorothy held him tight for a moment, then pulled back, her eyes glistening. Go see your daughter, Marcus Williams. Go remind yourself what matters. The drive to Lily's school took 20 minutes. Marcus pulled into the pickup line just as the final bell rang. Streams of children poured out of the building, laughing and shouting and living in the present moment the way only children can. He spotted Lily immediately. She was walking with two other girls talking animatedly, her backpack bouncing with each step. When she saw his car, her face lit up like sunrise. "Daddy!" She threw open the door and launched herself into his arms across the center console. "You came to pick me up. I missed you." He held her tight, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling her small heart beating against his chest. "How was school?" "Good. We learned about solar panels today in science class. I told everyone that Mommy invented stuff that makes them work better. Mrs. Johnson said I should bring some of Mommy's papers to show and tell." Marcus smiled, Elena's legacy spreading through their daughter's voice to a new generation. "That sounds wonderful, baby. We can pick out some things tonight." "Really?" Lily's eyes went wide. "Can I show them the picture of Mommy in her lab coat, the one where she's holding her first patent?" "Of course you can." They drove home the new home Marcus had purchased after selling the apartment filled with too many painful memories. It was a modest house, in a good school district with a backyard big enough for Lily to play, and a sunny room that Marcus had converted into a home office. As they pulled into the driveway, Lily asked the question that had become a regular part of their conversations. "Daddy, is the mean lady still in jail?" Marcus hesitated. He hadn't decided yet how much to tell Lily about Victoria's suicide attempt. She was 8 years old. There were some things she didn't need to know. "She's in a special hospital right now. She got sick." "Good sick or bad sick?" "Just sick, baby. It's complicated." Lily considered this with the serious expression that reminded Marcus so much of Elena. "I hope she gets better so she can stay in jail forever." "Is that bad?" "No, sweetheart, that's not bad. You want her to face consequences for what she did. That's called justice." "Justice," Lily repeated, testing the word. "Like what you and Dorothy did. You got justice for Mommy. We tried. We're still trying. It takes a long time to make things right when someone has done so much wrong." They went inside, and Marcus made dinner while Lily did her homework at the kitchen table. Chicken nuggets and vegetables. Elena's recipe modified for an 8-year-old's palate. As they ate together, Lily chattered about her friends, her teachers, the book she was reading for class. Normal life. The kind of normal that Marcus had thought would never be possible again after Elena died, after Victoria's cruelty consumed everything. But here it was growing slowly like flowers after a harsh winter. After dinner, they looked through Elena's papers together. Lily carefully selected the documents she wanted to share with her class: the patent certificates with Elena's signature, the photographs of early prototypes, the newspaper clippings about her innovations. "Mommy was really smart," Lily said softly, tracing Elena's signature with her finger. "The smartest person I ever knew." "Smarter than you." Marcus laughed. "Way smarter than me. I was just a regular engineer. Your mom was a genius." "But you're smart too, Daddy. You figured out how to beat the mean lady." "Mommy couldn't do that." Marcus pulled Lily close. "Your mom did do it, baby. She left me all the clues. She told me about Dorothy. She kept records that proved what Victoria did. Everything I accomplished was because your mother prepared the way. Like a treasure map." "Exactly like a treasure map. Mommy drew the map. I just followed it." Lily was quiet for a moment, then asked, "Daddy, do you think Mommy can see us from heaven?" "I know she can, sweetheart. What do you think she sees right now?" Marcus looked around their small, warm kitchen, at the papers spread across the table, at the photo of Elena hanging on the wall, at his daughter's face so full of love and curiosity and hope. "I think she sees two people who love her very much, who are trying to live good lives and make her proud, who miss her every single day but keep going anyway." Lily nodded solemnly. "I think she's happy. I think she's watching and smiling." "I think so too, baby. I think so too." 1 week later, Marcus stood before a crowd of over 1,000 people gathered for the official launch of the Elena Williams Foundation for Justice and Innovation. The venue was the grand ballroom of the hotel where Victoria Chen had once held her annual galas. The same room where champagne had been poured over Marcus's head. The same space where the powerful had gathered to celebrate their dominance over everyone else. Now it was transformed. Banners displayed Elena's photograph alongside the foundation's mission statement. Tables were filled with former Titan employees, compensated victims, civil rights activists, clean energy researchers, and politicians who had finally found the courage to speak out against corporate corruption. Dorothy sat in the front row, wearing a deep purple dress that made her look like royalty. Beside her was Bradley Chen, awkward in a borrowed suit, accompanied by his grandmother and his therapist. He had asked permission to attend, wanting to witness the good that was rising from the ashes of his family's destruction. Marcus had said yes. Agent Torres was there too, in the back of the room, watching with professional satisfaction as the case she had built continued to bear fruit. Victoria's trial had been postponed due to her medical situation, but the outcome was certain. The evidence was overwhelming. Justice would be served. Marcus approached the podium and waited for the applause to fade. 1 year ago, he began. I stood in this very room while a teenager poured champagne over my head. His mother filmed it, the crowd laughed, and I was supposed to feel humiliated, defeated, put in my place. He paused, letting the memory wash over him. But I wasn't humiliated. I wasn't defeated. Because I knew something Victoria Chen didn't know. I knew that I wasn't alone. I knew that Dorothy Price had spent 25 years documenting every crime Victoria committed. I knew that dozens of victims were waiting for someone brave enough to come forward. And I knew that my wife Elena, even from beyond the grave, had prepared the way for justice. Marcus looked at Lily sitting beside Dorothy, watching her father with shining eyes. Elena Williams was a genius. She developed technology that could change the world, and Victoria Chen destroyed her, not through competition, but through theft, harassment, and systematic cruelty. Victoria couldn't beat Elena fairly, so she cheated. She stole. She lied. And when Elena got sick, Victoria made sure she couldn't afford the treatment that might have saved her life. His voice cracked slightly, but he pushed through. I lost my wife. My daughter lost her mother, and for 3 years I planned revenge. I wanted Victoria Chen to suffer the way we had suffered. I wanted to destroy everything she had built. I wanted to watch her world burn. Marcus shook his head slowly. But somewhere along the way, something changed. Dorothy showed me that this fight was bigger than revenge. It was about all the people Victoria had hurt, the employees she had fired, the competitors she had crushed, the families she had shattered. This wasn't about one man's pain, it was about justice for everyone. He gestured to the crowd before him. Look around this room. Look at the faces of people who were told they didn't matter, who were silenced by money and power, who thought they would never see accountability for the crimes committed against them. They're here tonight because truth is more powerful than wealth, because courage is more durable than cruelty, because justice, however long delayed, eventually arrives. The applause began to build, but Marcus held up his hand. I'm not done yet, because there's one more thing I need to say, one more truth I need to speak. He found Bradley Chen's face in the crowd. The teenager looked terrified. 6 months ago, I visited the boy who poured champagne on my head. He was in a psychiatric facility, separated from his mother for the first time in his life, trying to understand why everything he had been taught was wrong. He expected me to scream at him, to threaten him, to treat him the way his mother had taught him to treat everyone else. Marcus's voice softened. Instead, I told him the truth. That he was a victim too. That children don't choose their parents or their upbringing. That the cruelty he learned wasn't his fault, but the choice to be different was now his to make. And I told him something Elena used to say, that every person has the capacity to change right up until their very last breath. He looked directly at Bradley. Bradley Chen is here tonight. He asked to come. He wanted to witness the good that's emerging from the destruction his family caused. And I want everyone in this room to know that he is trying. He's going to public school. He's volunteering at a homeless shelter. He's learning what it means to earn respect instead of demanding it. Bradley was crying now, silent tears running down his cheeks. He still has a long way to go, but he's going. And that's what this foundation is really about. Not just accountability for the past, but hope for the future. Not just punishment for wrongdoing, but paths toward redemption. Not just justice, but healing. Marcus looked out at the sea of faces before him. Elena believed that technology could change the world. She was right. But she also believed that people could change themselves. That anyone, no matter their background, no matter their history, could choose to be better. That's the legacy I want to honor. That's the foundation I want to build. He raised his glass. To Elena Williams, to Dorothy Price, to every victim who refused to stay silent, and to everyone brave enough to stand up against cruelty and injustice no matter the cost. This is our victory. This is our moment. And this is only the beginning. The ballroom erupted in thunderous applause. Marcus stepped away from the podium as Dorothy approached him, tears streaming down her face. "Elena would be so proud," she whispered. "I hope so. I really hope so." Lily broke away from her seat and ran to Marcus, throwing her arms around his legs. "Daddy, that was amazing." Everyone was clapping so loud. He lifted her up, holding her close. "Did you like it, baby?" "I loved it. And I know Mommy loved it too. I could feel her here." Marcus looked around the room, at the people embracing, at the tears of joy and relief, at the cameras capturing a moment of genuine triumph over evil. And somehow, in the midst of it all, he felt Elena's presence too, her approval, her love, her quiet assurance that everything was going to be all right. Bradley Chen approached hesitantly, his grandmother at his side. "Mr. Williams, He struggled for words. "Thank you, for what you said up there. I don't deserve—" "You deserve a chance," Marcus interrupted gently. "We all do. Use it wisely." Bradley nodded, unable to speak further. His grandmother mouthed a silent thank you as she led him away. The celebration continued late into the night. Marcus shook hundreds of hands, accepted countless expressions of gratitude, and posed for more photographs than he could count. But through it all, he kept returning to the same place beside Lily, beside Dorothy, beside the people who had fought with him through the darkness. Finally, near midnight, Marcus carried a sleeping Lily to his car. Dorothy walked beside him, her steps slower than usual, but her spirit indomitable. "What now?" she asked. "Tomorrow we get back to work. There are still victims to help, still systems to change, still battles to fight." And after that, Marcus looked down at his daughter, peaceful in his arms, her future stretching before her like an open road. After that we live, we love, we honor the people we lost by building something worthy of their memory. And we teach the next generation that truth always wins in the end. It just takes courage to fight for it. Dorothy smiled. "Elena chose well. When she told you about me, when she trusted you to finish her work, she knew exactly who you were. I hope I proved her right." "You did, Marcus. Every single day you proved her right." Marcus placed Lily gently in her car seat, then turned to embrace Dorothy one last time. "Thank you for waiting," he said. 25 years. You could have given up 1,000 times. You could have taken Victoria's money and stayed silent. But you didn't. You waited. And when the time came, you were ready. Dorothy pulled back, her eyes shining. "I waited because I believed in justice. And I believed that somewhere, somehow, someone would come along who was brave enough to fight. I just didn't know it would be a single father with a broken heart and nothing left to lose." "Nothing left to lose," Marcus repeated. "That's what made the difference. Victoria couldn't threaten me with anything worse than what I'd already survived." "That's not true anymore," Dorothy observed. "Now you have everything to fight for. This foundation, these people, your daughter." Marcus nodded, understanding her meaning. The fight continues. Different enemies, different tactics, but the same principles. The same principles, Dorothy agreed. Truth over lies, courage over fear, justice over power. They said goodnight, and Marcus drove home through streets quiet with late-night emptiness. Lily slept peacefully in the back seat, dreaming whatever dreams 8-year-olds dream when they know they are safe and loved. At home, Marcus carried her to bed and tucked her in. He stood in her doorway for a long moment, watching her breathe, memorizing the curve of her cheek. "We did it, Elena," he whispered. "We beat them. And now we're going to build something beautiful from the ashes. Something you would have loved. Something that will help people for generations to come." He walked to his own bedroom, where a photograph of Elena smiled at him from the nightstand. He touched it gently, feeling the familiar ache of loss mixed with something new, something like peace. "Good night, my love. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for preparing the way. Thank you for giving me Lily and for giving me the strength to keep going when everything seemed impossible." He lay down, exhaustion finally overtaking him. "I'll see you in my dreams. And someday when my work here is done, I'll see you for real. Until then, I'll keep fighting. I'll keep building. I'll keep making you proud." Marcus Williams closed his eyes. Outside, the night was quiet and still. The stars shone down on a world that was just a little bit better than it had been a year ago. And somewhere in a dimension beyond human understanding, Elena Williams smiled at the man she had loved and the daughter they had made together. Justice had been served. Truth had prevailed. Love had endured. And that was enough. The next morning, Marcus woke to sunlight streaming through his window and Lily jumping on his bed. "Daddy, wake up! It's Pancake Sunday!" He laughed, grabbing her and pulling her into a hug. "Pancake Sunday, is that a thing now?" "It's a thing because I said it's a thing. Come on, Daddy, you promised." Marcus rose, stretching muscles sore from yesterday's marathon celebration. But the soreness felt good. Earned. The ache of a body that had worked hard for something worthwhile. They made pancakes together in the sunny kitchen floor, getting everywhere, Lily insisting on adding chocolate chips in the shape of smiley faces. The radio played softly in the background news about the foundation launch, about Victoria Chen's continuing legal troubles, about the wave of corporate reform sweeping the country in response to the scandal. Marcus listened with half an ear, focusing most of his attention on his daughter's chatter about school and friends and the book she was reading about a princess who saved her kingdom through cleverness rather than violence. "Daddy," Lily asked suddenly, her voice serious. "Yes, baby. Are you happy?" Marcus considered the question carefully. Happiness had seemed impossible after Elena died. An emotion reserved for other people, for lives that hadn't been shattered by loss and injustice. But now, standing in his kitchen with flour on his hands and his daughter smiling at him, he realized the truth. "Yes, baby. I'm happy. Not because everything is perfect. Not because I don't miss Mommy every single day. But because I have you. Because we're together. Because we're building something good from something terrible." He knelt down to her level. "Happiness isn't about having an easy life, Lily. It's about facing hard things with people you love. It's about fighting for what's right even when it's scary. It's about finding joy in small moments like pancakes on a Sunday morning." Lily nodded solemnly. "I'm happy too, Daddy. And I think Mommy is happy watching us." "I think so too, sweetheart. I think so too." They finished their pancakes and spent the rest of the morning in the backyard playing in the autumn leaves, laughing at nothing and everything. And somewhere above them, beyond the blue sky and the scattered clouds, Elena Williams watched her husband and daughter with eternal love. Her work was complete. Her legacy was secure. And the man she had loved had become everything she had always known he could be. Marcus Williams had walked into darkness and emerged carrying light. He had lost everything and built something greater from the ruins. He had faced a monster and shown the world that monsters can be defeated. And now, with his daughter's hand in his, and his wife's memory in his heart, He was finally ready to live the rest of his life. Not as a victim, not as a crusader, just as a father, a builder, a man who had learned that the only power that truly matters is the power to love to fight and to never ever give up. Truth doesn't break, it only gets stronger under pressure. And Marcus Williams was living proof.